Hold that thought. So this guy is over here. I don't think you can see it. Oh yeah, he's over there. And he was, or his mom is going to leave tomorrow for Christmas holiday, and he said, oh, and she's probably going to be crying at the airport. And right away,
I said, bet you $5 she cries in the airport.
Okay, he said, bet you five. What the hell? That's not significantly different than what I said. This guy, he just wants shine. Okay, I'll put the camera on you while you waste time and obscure the point. So she's gonna be taking the trip, and he says, I bet you $5 that she's gonna cry. And I just right away say, why? Or why would she cry? And then I turned to him and I said, oh, wait a minute. Like she needs a reason to cry because she's all emotional and stuff. And he's laughing. And then I laugh at the more fundamental idea, which is, ha ha ha, women, they haven't been emotionally abused into being emotionally distant. Ha ha ha. Because men have. But then, of course, I clarified that women have been emotionally abused into being hypersensitive. And then this guy, with his arms all up in a position of aggression and dominance, if you believe body language interpretations. Yeah. He says, but what about women are the opposite now? Now they're all distant and cold, which is often the case, the bipolar of hypersensitive or hyper cold. But then I clarified to him that no, women are no more cold or distant than they ever, or no, women are no less hypersensitive than they've ever been socialized to be. It's just that when you're so hypersensitive when you're young, you become so feeling unsafe and sad that you develop this what I call emotional scar tissue guarding you, but really there's this soft center. And then he asks, so isn't that what they say about guys too? Like the big guy, not necessarily big, but just this aggressive guy who has this soft center. And I'll clarify. Well, usually they say that just to mock and scorn him, and make it like really he's weak because they don't like him. They're not really saying it in this way. The poor guy just has to put on a front. We don't really feel sensitive towards men like that. We make up things like little man syndrome. That's an example of um, the man has a soft center, a little guy that's been fucked with all his life, and so he develops this strong character so people will leave him alone. Well, little man syndrome, geez, he's awfully defensive because he gets fucked with all the time. You'll notice that giant, handsome, respected guys don't have little man syndrome because they're not fucked with. I wasn't going to even bring that conversation reminded me of something that happened on the way to or on the trolley that I wasn't going to bring up because it was so obscure, but since this happened, I'll bring it up. Onto the trolley came a black man and a white woman. Actually, really dark. Some, well, anyhow, it's enough to say black man, but somewhat mixed. One of those two people, I won't say who's who, but just guess by their socialization who might have been whom. One of these people was all cradled amongst itself, holding a teddy bear, and that person was at least in its 20s. Cradling a teddy bear, long hair, feeling not quite safe, but still just amongst itself with the teddy bear. Oh, I like cute things. And clearly the safest demographic on the trolley, the least likely to be attacked, the most likely to be defended. Whoever that might have been, the white woman or the black man. Then the other person had tattoos on its shaved head, was looking at everybody doubtfully, was way amongst itself, but keeping an eye looking behind it. So he has a soft center. I'll spoiler alert. The black guy was the one with the tattoos and the angry look and the doubt and the distrust. And yeah, he probably does have a soft center where he doesn't want to have to defend himself everywhere he goes. Do we give a fuck? No, he has a form of little man syndrome. I mean, why is that tattooed black guy so angry? Why doesn't he just sit comfortably with the teddy bear? And the girl was all cumbersome and everything. You just had a bag, had shoes some kind of way. Why doesn't he dress all cumbersome and completely incapable of defending himself and just sit there and kind of worry about things, but also just be amongst himself, enjoying what it's like to not have so much tight muscle ready to react in the course of danger? Why isn't he so protected? So in the end, yeah, there are people who are just putting up a front of strength, but women are not cold and this and that because they're strong. It's usually out of a sense of survival, which is the only reason men in the first place are cold and strong. And that's what I've said throughout growing up with martial arts and everything. If you were to take a woman, train her, teach her to be aggressive, teach her to fend for herself, and train men to be docile, we don't even go that far into that specific kind of training before women will already be colder than men, stronger than men, more capable than men, more aggressive, more vicious than men. And so this biological determinism, the idea, oh, men are just naturally strong, or women are just naturally nice. When you allow women to be nice, when you create a situation where she's the least likely to be attacked, most likely to be defended, and she's nice. When you create a situation where little men get fucked with all the time, they have little man syndrome. Nobody fucks with the giant guy who could crush them. Although, giant, ask a big person, they will get fucked with by some people because they realize how much violence in general is looked down on, and how if they get nipped at enough, they might fight back, but they try not to because they realize, like a big guy realizes, he'll be looked at as the person who should have been more diplomatic, because especially if it's against a woman, you know, a guy, there's never an excuse to hit a woman, not even self-defense. But if I go and attack a giant guy, they're going to be like, well, he wouldn't just attack a giant guy. Well, of course I would, because it's not the size of the dog in the fight, it's the size of the fight in the dog. And the thing that big people, even women, but big people, aggressive people, strong people, what they learn is you're not allowed to have fight in you, because you will be looked at right away. And that's why you'll notice, one of the things you might just notice if you open your eyes nowadays, how much more diplomatic black guys are than white guys. Oh no, think of the craziest example of a crazy black guy, okay. But in general, black guys are far more diplomatic, and they're far more law-abiding in general to real laws, because they realize there are consequences. White people raised to believe, well, you know what, it just depends. And I'm the first to say, I've not been treated well by cops and everything, so white guys can't get away with a lot. But they can get away with more than black people can. One more thing I'll mention, and then you had something. When I was in journalism class, it was mostly black people, mostly black guys, and a couple of white guys. And man, you should have seen, some of the black guys didn't really have the more stereotypical black experience of getting treated some kind of way and all this. But you should have seen them when this white guy, such the sloppy, gross character that is stereotypical of privileged white kids, and he's not even really privileged, he's just a poor white kid, but nevertheless he doesn't have the more like a really scapegoated white guy or an average black guy. Should have heard this guy talking about how he deals with cops, how if a cop did that, I'd just say fuck you, and the black people look at him like either he's lying or he doesn't, or the way he's saying, he doesn't realize how if that was one of us, we get trampled on. But they didn't even say anything, because although they were the majority in the classroom and the teacher isn't black, and although they're the majority, they know that you can't just start bringing up white privilege. Even a poor white guy has more privilege than an average black guy in your average social situation. They were too diplomatic to even bring it up there, because they know right away it's going to be, oh, this angry black guy trying to make himself out to be a victim. It was an awkward ass scene. But yeah, you teach people to be that they are not going to be protected, and they're going to have to figure out a way to protect themselves. So think of that the next time you see, there's so many videos out online now of a woman attacking a man. Nobody does anything. And so the man is put in a position, well, you have to defend yourself. Whereas if it was a woman getting attacked, people would have stopped things. One more thing, I lied, because remember that time I took a picture of an old lady for the sake of journalism down here, and this lady started attacking me. And what did those people do? Not a damn thing. What if I would have been attacking that lady? What would they have done? They would have stopped the situation and not put her in a position to have to defend herself. But I'm there, this lady is attacking me. It was kind of crazy. But long story short, if you force people to have to defend themselves, then you demonize them for it. You have what we have, which is a culture that says there's never an excuse to hit a woman, and really implies, even in self-defense, And in case you just joined us, the most extensive domestic violence study has shown that men and women abuse each other equally, but that women are more likely to initiate abuse. And how many of these things where it's a man abusing a woman really is just a man defending himself? None? None at all? Not a single time has a woman started attacking a man defending himself, clearing for his space, and then she calls foul. Never happens, rarely happens. No, a woman would never attack a man. We don't see that all the time in culture. We don't see that in movies laughed at where the woman's hitting the man and everything and the guy just takes it. But what if the man actually defends himself? It's never happened. That a victim of a man has been put in jail for defending himself against a woman. Then once he gets out, he has a record as a violent person against women. Then he has to hear all about how women are victims all the time. Did you have something more? You had something.
Well, I was just gonna ask something, but it's like not informative, so you can edit this out if you want to.
All right, well, go ahead.
Just like well, since they're so fluffy inside and yet put up these walls around them, what can a normal person do to get to climb those walls?
Break the wall? Oh, that's not. You said that's like not relevant or something? It's crazy bastard. One of the things that's entirely unrespectable of a woman is the whole when a man opens a door for her it is a principle, but this is an example. He opens the door and she says, "What? You don't think I can open the door for myself?" Or if they're out on a date, he pays for things. I hate it when guys pay for me, is what she'll gossip to the next guy. And the thing that I recommend for climbing those walls is not, oh, the guy is socially pressured into opening doors for you, paying for you, apologizing if you didn't want the door open for you. Instead, these self-righteous, hypocritical women, however unintentional their self-righteousness or their hypocrisy, I recommend to them, and I've literally recommended to people's faces, don't turn it into, see, why do you guys have to, you feel like you have to pay? No, they say that to the guy, belittling him, even as the context is he is socially tortured into being some kind of way. What you need to do is, with humility and sensitivity, recognize that this person is being forced to do this and tell them, like, look, I realize that our culture expects you to do this, that, and the other thing, but just so you know, it won't earn points with me, and you're perfectly, I will accept you as a person without doing, complimenting unnecessarily, opening doors, paying for everything. And that's another thing women will complain about is that they will complain about compliments they receive. Like, guys always think that they just compliment this, that. But here's the rub, as they say in British English, and some English people take it because it sounds fancy. Here's the rub. Here's the important part is that would require, imagine what that requires, is women to be introspective, to be genuinely concerned for the man and not just for her own feelings at the moment, and for her to have the interest of equality. Meaning that she would have to not want to just gossip to you about, see, why do guys, it's like they pay for things, it's like, why do guys, they like complimenting, and you say, oh, well, just, if that's not what you want, then tell it to him, but recognize it in the context of him being forced to do those kind of things. Wait, so, like, tell him that he doesn't need to compliment me, doesn't need to pay for things? Well, no, I want that when I want that. So the climbing the wall for, so I think you're asking just in the context of how do you climb women's walls, but I'm saying for women to climb the men's walls of insecurity or prejudice as to how we should be acting is just to be sensitive. For you to climb her walls, same thing, is because if he engages a woman, for example, if he asks her for naked pictures, and for example, if she gives it to him, for example, if he's not particularly pleased with them, he could go in the direction of finding some way to be appreciative, to give value, to appreciate the connection, to appreciate the loss of a barrier, the insecurity over sexuality. And he could develop from there the kind of character where he will just radiate, if this is all hypothetical, right, where he would just radiate an acceptance and a breaking down of those walls. Or he could go in the direction of saying, well, one more conquest, this isn't the caliber of woman, her naked body doesn't make me horny enough to want to break down her walls. She should stay emotionally insecure because she is not attractive. So there, you could turn it into techniques, and damn you, glare. You could turn it into techniques and gimmicks. And there are techniques and gimmicks that work scientifically, meaning like you could break it down and be like, damn, this really does set people at ease. But better is just to develop the character so you don't even have to think like, wait a minute, what did that guy in my room one time say? How should I read in a book somewhere, Oprah told me I ought to start with a compliment. Better and more and less soul stripping, just to develop the character of really being interested in breaking down those walls, really being interested in that person, self-defining why those walls are up, and then really ask them something along the lines of, do you want those walls broken down, in so many words? And if they do, then with sensitivity, but without being overly sensitive, break down those walls as you need to, and don't let them be self-destructive as they put up their walls unnecessarily, blame you for it and whatnot. So, how to break down the walls? Just develop that as part of your character, an interest in breaking down the walls for their sake. Because the whole point is, the only reason you want to break down those walls is for your sake. So you're already going to be, by definition, served. It serves you. But then you actually have to consider them, and you're going to get your needs met better. But that's only for women. Only do that to men who have money, and for guys, only do that to attractive women, because ugly women do not deserve love, and poor men do not deserve love, because the purpose of a woman is to be sexually appealing. So poor women do not deserve love, and the purpose of a man is to pay for things, so poor men do not deserve love. Are there any other things?
No.
So how about that hypothetical? If you ever come across such a woman, and if you ever reality, mimicking art,